So this month we're going to talk about note-taking in the back channel. This is where we'll talk about some note-taking applications, what microblogging is, and then some chat applications that you might want to use within the classroom. So these are the applications that you'll hear me talk about today, and some of these we'll look at when we meet in person. Now, because last month we had to cancel because of weather, we will do our copyright discussion this month. And so we will only be doing copyright, and then we will also talk about some back channel tools. We won't be talking about note-taking tools. We just won't have the time when we meet. But I'm going to discuss some in this video that you are free to explore on your own. I have some screenshots showing how to use them, because note-taking is important, but we just won't have the time to show that when we meet. So keep that in mind, that the note-taking tools here you're going to explore on your own. I won't show you how to do them, how to use them in person. If you do have questions in person, of course, whenever we have the time where you're all working on your iPads or on your computers, then you can ask me any questions that we have about those tools. But I won't be doing kind of a hands-on showing you how to use them. So you'll want to really pay attention to what some of this stuff is in the webinar or the video. So here with note-taking, we like to talk about note-taking a little bit because we do think it helps students avoid plagiarism if they can take notes better. Because students a lot of times they aren't citing things correctly, or they don't remember if a source was a direct quote or if it was just they paraphrased something. So then that makes them also not cite something correctly. So when you talk about note-taking, it can really help them if you give them some tips. So we like using Purdue OWL. OWL stands for the Online Writing Lab. It's a fabulous website from Purdue that can really help with, it has things like citation information on it. It can show you how to do things like block quoting. It's really rich in how to do a lot of different things when it comes to writing. But they also have a lot of tips on how to do note-taking. So for instance, they say things like, mark someone else's words with a big Q when you're taking a note. Or of course use quotation marks, but somehow make sure that you do that when you're taking your notes. Or make sure to indicate ideas taken from sources with a big S, and then which ideas are your own with just writing me next to them. So if you're paraphrasing from a source, you're always going to put just a big S next to it so that you know that is from someone else. If you are going to write your own idea then about what you're reading in the source, then put me next to it, just so when you're going back it makes sense. And then one really important thing is to always record relevant documentation, like the book and article titles, any URLs from a website you're using. I can't stress that enough because I have students call me quite often saying things like, I found this great article and it was fabulous and I even took some quotes and things from it, but I don't have it anymore. Can you help me find it? And the only thing they have are quotes from it. They don't have the title, the author, or anything, and it's very difficult to try to find something like that. So I can't stress enough that it's very important to record the relevant information. So those are just some tips we give, and we feel like you probably know a lot of these tips and have your own ways that you take notes. But do you talk to students about some of these tips? So when you talk with students about taking notes for any paper they need to write or presentation they need to do you share some of these ideas with them? And so if you haven't thought about that before, this is just kind of a reminder. Give them some ideas when they're taking notes of how to best organize their notes. Now, one app you can use to take notes is called Paperport Notes. Now, I will say there are a lot of note-taking applications, a lot. There's even one that comes with most mobile devices. But if you're going to use an app to take notes and you want it to do more than just take notes, then Paperport Notes is one for you. It allows you to take notes with your finger or a stylus. You can also type notes. You can even dictate your notes. And then when your note is in there, you can highlight or draw. And then it also has audio notes. So audio notes are different than dictated notes. Dictated notes, you'll speak and it will type out the text you're saying. But audio notes, it actually takes a little audio file of what you say and attaches it to the note. So it has all of these different things in Paperport Notes. One of my favorite things, though, is that you can take notes on top of PDFs or other documents. You can pull in other documents into Paperport Notes and take notes on top of it. And when you're done, you can share the notes that you take in multiple ways. You can just leave them in Paperport Notes for yourself, or you can share them via email, Google Drive, Dropbox, and many more. So it's nice that you can share them in many ways if you'd like as well. So since I won't be able to show you this in person and how to use some of the features, I have about 5 screenshots that just go over some of the things in Paperport Notes. So first is that you can take notes with your finger or a stylus. I just took these notes with my finger, and I can't write as well when I take notes with my finger, but you can do that. So you can see at the top I wrote take notes with your finger, and down at the bottom I said you can also zoom in to write notes. I zoomed in just like you can on an iPad in Photos or anything, or on a website. You can zoom in and then take your notes so that when you zoom back out your notes aren't so large. So those 2 notes that I wrote in blue, the one I zoomed in on, and I'd be able to fit in a lot more notes if I were to zoom in and take notes that way. I don't take notes myself very much with my finger like that, but what you can do is you can use your finger to draw an arrow and point at something in your notes that you just don't want to forget, that kind of thing too. So you can use your finger when you're writing in Paperport Notes. You can also type out the text, and even after you type you can highlight. And to do all these things, you just want to look to the top right-hand corner of the Paperport Notes screenshot here. This screenshot's a little bit older. Paperport Notes has changed a little bit, but pretty much the icons are all in the exact same spot. So I didn't take a new screenshot because I thought this was good. But all the icons are in the top right-hand corner, and you can see the T icon allows you to type your text. The icon that looks like kind of a pencil, that allows you to write text with your finger. The one next to that looks like a highlighter, and that is where you can highlight something. And then there's an eraser, and you can erase what you have done. When you use the eraser, keep in mind it doesn't erase the text that you typed out. If you want to erase the text that you typed out, just tap on the text and it will pull up the keyboard where you can backspace. So the eraser will just erase something you wrote with your finger or a stylus, or it'll erase something like your highlights. So those really are the icons you use to kind of take notes like this. And the audio icon up there, it looks like a microphone. You tap on that and that's where you can do an audio recording. Now again, these are just recordings, so this is it's not going to type out the text here. I'll show you how to do that in a different screenshot. But this will be a recording that you can attach a recording of what you want to say to a note. So that's what that microphone is up at the top of the page. And then you can pull in PDFs or other documents. So I opened up this PDF in Paperport Notes, and then I highlighted things that I really liked, and you can see I pointed at things. So I really like the idea that you can pull in PDFs and do things like this, because that's what I want to do quite often, is highlight something that I see on a PDF. So this allows you to do that when you're working on a mobile device. And then to dictate your notes. Here's a more current screenshot of Paperport Notes. You can see the icons are all in the same spot, but it just looks a little bit different of a color. So to dictate your notes, you tap on the T, like I said, and it'll pull up the keyboard. And that's how you can type your notes out too, but this is where you can also dictate. So you tap on the T and the keyboard will pop up, and then you want to click on where it says tap and speak. And then that is where you speak and it will dictate what you say. Now you have to give it the punctuation and things like that, and keep in mind that it doesn't always do proper names correctly and that kind of thing, but it is a nice little dictation tool right in this note-taking tool. Now, there's a lot more Paperport Notes can do, or maybe you need to see more examples of how to use some of these things. So that's where you want to go to the user guide. If you click on Menu, it's on the top left-hand corner. Click on Menu, and then you'll see a Help button you can click on, or a Help link. If you click on that, you will find the user guide, and I highly suggest looking at the user guide. It has great screenshots showing how to do all of this stuff in Paperport Notes. So that's one thing that you'll want to make use of, especially since I won't be able to show you this. I highly recommend looking at the user guide. So go to Menu, then Help, and then you'll find it there. Now another note-taking tool that I won't be showing you, but this is a really simple one that I think you'll be able to figure out pretty easily. This is Dragon Dictation, and it's a dictation tool. Now you probably have seen commercials for Dragon Dictation, and don't think that that's what this is. This is the same company, but this is just a free app that they put out, so it doesn't do everything that paid Dragon Dictation system can do. For instance, here you speak and it types what you say, but you have to give it all the punctuation. And in that system that you've seen probably in a commercial, it puts the punctuation in for you. So this is not the same. This is a free tool, so you have to give it all the punctuation. And just like Paperport Notes, it doesn't always do the best with things like proper nouns and that kind of thing. But it's a really simple, nice tool that you can use for dictation. And then it just has a few ways you can share it. You can share it via email and via things like Facebook and Twitter if you want, or you can just copy this to paste somewhere else as well. So in Dragon Dictation, it's very, very plain. This is what will open up. It's kind of a white screen that will open up for you. And at the top of it, and actually the first note you take, it might not even be a white screen. It might just say in the center of the screen, tap here to record. If you see a white screen though, the record button is in the top center, and you click on that to start recording. And it doesn't type your text as you're recording. You have to just say everything you want to say, and when you're done, you tap the screen and then your text will appear. So you can't see it at the same time, which is probably good. It might be confusing to see it at the same time. So you just tap the record button and then tap the screen when you're finished, and then it will pull in all of the stuff that you dictated. On the keyboard in the bottom, after you finish typing, it'll pull in, the information that you typed or that you spoke, and then you can tap on the keyboard if you want to edit it. So you can edit the information afterwards right in the app too. So you do have the keyboard to do that. And then on the top right hand corner, those are the buttons that you want to use. If you want to make a new note, you can hit the plus button. You want to delete a note, you hit the trash can. And if you want to share or copy the note, you hit the little share button, which looks like an arrow pointing down. If you click on that, it gives you options to share via Facebook or Twitter or email, or it allows you to copy the note. So you could copy it to paste it somewhere else. And this is pretty much what Dragon Dictation does. I didn't take another screenshot because this is really as simple as it is. It only does this for you. It just dictates. So there's no other big fancy feature of how you take notes in here. It only dictates what you say, and you can edit it with that keyboard afterwards if you need to. So it's a really simple tool, and if you think this might be useful for you or your students, try this and see if it could help them. It's a really great tool, and it works on iPads and iPhones, so it would be an easy one for the students to get access to. So this is Dragon Dictation. So I highly recommend checking it out, and I know you'll be able to use it by just opening it up because it is a pretty simple tool. So now we want to talk about the back channel and what that is. And we talk about the back channel with note taking because you can also use the back channel to take notes. So the back channel are those sidebar discussions that happen in a classroom or at a conference or in a meeting. So when I talk to you all and I stand in front of you, I see you whispering to each other, and I see you sometimes pointing at each other's screen and that kind of thing. Now, some of the things you're whispering might not be on topic, but some might be. Are you pointing at something within an app that I'm talking about that you're trying to help each other figure it out? And what are you saying to each other? Is what you're saying, could it add to the conversation with everyone? So the whole idea of the back channel is those little conversations that are happening that are on topic, could we try to bring those to the front and add them to the discussion? Utilizing the back channel can help with note taking too, because 40% of classroom lecture and discussion is captured in the average student's notes. That's a statistic that's kind of out there. Every now and then I see the statistic be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but typically it's right around this range that students' notes capture about 40% of a lecture and discussion. So if we utilize the back channel, if we use tools to bring the back channel discussions to the front, could that help? Could it be like taking notes together? And I'll give you an example. When I use Twitter at a conference, I always tweet the things that I'm learning in the sessions that I'm in. And other people tweet the things they're learning in the sessions they're in. So even though I can't go to 2 sessions at once, I can see what someone took away from a different session, and it really adds to my conference experience. Or even I can see what notes someone is taking if they put it on Twitter as well. I can see what they're taking if they're even in the same session I'm in, and they might have thought of something interesting about a certain tool I'm learning about, a different way to use it, and they might have put that on Twitter, and that really adds to the discussion for me. So I love using something like Twitter to capture the back channel when I'm at meetings or conferences, because I can see what other people at the same meeting or conference are thinking or doing or using when it comes to everything that we're learning. So when we think about what captures the back channel, then it is microblogging and chat platforms. So Twitter is considered a microblogging platform. It's not a full blog post like you all are writing in the Ning, but it's small pieces of information, usually commentary or links or photos that you post on the internet. So things like Twitter is considered microblogging. There's also different chat platforms that can help capture the back channel too. And so we're going to talk about Today's Meet and Simple Meet. And as I go forward in this video, you'll see a little bit more about them before we meet here. So one thing you want to think about with some of these microblogging and chat services is that some of them make you limit the amount of characters you write. In Twitter, for instance, you can only use 140 characters. That's not 140 words or 140 letters. It's characters, which even includes the spaces that you use. The same with Today's Meet. Today's Meet also only lets you do 140 characters with each thing you type. So can that help students summarize and paraphrase? If we're thinking kind of note-taking, can that help students? How do they concisely say what they need to in 140 characters? Paraphrasing, something like that, also helps them not plagiarize, like we talked about before. So will services like this, where they have to paraphrase something or get across their ideas in a short period, a short amount of characters, will it help them when it comes to something like that? And you can argue yes it will and no it won't, but it's just an idea out there that maybe using some platforms like this could help students. Now you can use Twitter in education, but know that Twitter just has two privacy settings. It's either public or it's private. There's no in between. So there might be a couple tools better, and so I'm not going to show you Twitter, especially because not every district has Twitter open. So I'm not going to show you Twitter, but I will show you these two other tools that may be better for the classroom, Today's Meet and Simple Meet. So Today's Meet I love because it is so basic. If you went right now to todaysmeet.com, this is what you would see. It asks you to name your room and then choose when to delete the room. You can choose to delete the room in 2 hours, in a day, in a week, or up to even 2 years. So you could have a room that you use for the whole year for a class if you wanted. Or you can have your room just used for each class period. Have the room delete in an hour. So all you do is name your room and then you delete your room. And you can see under where it says name your room, it says todaysmeet.com/. When you name your room, so let's say I would name my room Millie. When I name my room, it would be todaysmeet.com/Millie. And then when I want other people to enter my room, I'd give them my link. I would not tell them to go to todaysmeet.com, but I would tell them to go to todaysmeet.com/Millie. So people need to know the name of the room because they need that at the end of the link. It's going to be todaysmeet.com/ whatever the name of your room is. And that's the link that you would give someone. And then they would all enter the room. And they are only asked to just provide their name to enter the room. And when they enter the room, this is what it looks like. The oldest messages are in the bottom, and then the newest messages are at the top. And so when you enter the room, all you see is just the messages on the left, and then on the right-hand side where it says message in blue, that's where you type your message. And you can see above it, it says 140, and it will count, and that's 140 characters. And so as you're typing it, it starts counting down to let you know when you're getting close to 140. So this is what Today's Meet does. You don't have an account. Students don't have an account. You just have the link to your room. And you just have it, it deletes just whenever you set it up. If it's going to delete in a day, a week, whatever it may be, it'll delete after that time frame that you choose. So this is it. This is all Today's Meet does, but it's a very, very simple tool to get someone in a room if you want to have discussions. I've seen people use Today's Meet in multiple ways. The presenters at the front of the room, whether it's the teacher or a student, and everyone else is in a Today's Meet room, and they're putting down the information that they're learning in the presentation or what they think about the presentation. Another way I've seen it is they have students watch a movie. And as the students are watching a movie, they're all in the today's meet room, and they're jotting down their notes of things they're learning from the movie. So they can each see each other's notes when they're in the today's meet room. There's a lot of different ways that you could use something like this. There's also the fishbowl, where you have, a small group of students, 3 students in the center of the room discussing something, and the students on the outside of the room are just watching. Well, instead of having them just watch, have them participate by having them in a today's meet room. So they're participating by typing their information in this today's meet room, and they're not interrupting the discussion that's going on in the center of the room. They're still listening to that discussion, but they might add to it by typing in something in the today's meet room. So there's multiple ways you could use something like a chat in a classroom, and you probably have other ways you can think of as well. But those are just a couple ways that people use something like this in the classroom. Now the other one is Simple Meet, and I will probably show Simple Meet to Millie Jr. because today's Meet, unfortunately, in their terms of service, they say they don't want anyone younger than 13 using it. Now you don't set up an account, they never know who you are, so it would be really hard for them to figure out who's using it. But that's what their terms of service says. So I always have to make you aware when a term of service says something like that. And Simple Meet doesn't have anything like that in their terms of service. Anyone can use the Simple Meet rooms. So when you go to simplemeet.me, this is what you'll see on their website. It'll either want you to start a chat or join a chat. And you can see when you start a chat, it gives you a number. So if I were to hit start, my chat room would be 5162. So then I would tell students to come here and look in the green box where it says join chat, and they would type in 5162. So that's how you'd get someone in your chat room. They'd need to know your number. So you could just write your number on the chalkboard, on the whiteboard, on your smartboard, and tell students, go to Simple Meet Me and put 5162 in there and click join. I believe you can also get a link to give someone a link that has kind of the number in the link, but this is a pretty easy way as long as they don't start their own chat, as long as you make it clear to use the green box and type in 5162 to enter the chat room. And then when students enter the chat room for Simple Meet, it looks something like this. They enter the chat room, they're entering kind of as user 1, user 2, that kind of thing. But at the top of the screen, they would change their name. And you'd want to tell students to put in their full name or at least first name, last initial, something so you can identify. And then they click the OK button. So they can change their name once they enter the room. But when they first enter, they are entering as like user 1, user 2, that kind of thing. And you can see on the left-hand side, it does show you anything that you type shows up on the left, and anything that anyone else is in there will show up on the right. So you can kind of easily see when you've replied to someone or then when you've posted something versus when everyone else has posted them too. Simple Meet is pretty easy to use. This is really all you get here with Simple Meet. But you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, what's nice about this is you can get a chat log if you want. You receive a chat log from when you entered the chat to when you leave it. You just want to put your email address in there and hit the request button, and you'll be able to get a chat log. You can't get a chat log in today's Meet, but you can copy and paste everything and paste it into a Word document. So you can do that as well. But here in Simple Meet, it's nice that they'll give you a chat log if you request it. Now, one thing you want to do if you're going to use a tool like this with students is you definitely want to make guidelines. You want to tell them, are you going to grade what they type? Do they have to use proper language, or can they use things like LOL and BTW and things like that? If they're going to be putting in notes or quotes or anything, do they need to put a Q in front of a quote? If they're going to paraphrase or summarize, are they going to put links to whatever they're paraphrasing in the chat? Do they have to participate? Does participation count? And then the biggest one is if they misuse the tool, if they start picking on someone within the chat, if they start using bad language, whatever your misuse rules will be, that you have to set consequences. And you want to tell them before they enter the room too. We want to keep this room on point on what we're talking about, so no jokes, that kind of thing. You have to kind of account for jokes at the very beginning or people trying things out. Even when we're going to go into a today's meet room when we meet, or a simple meet room, and I even know you guys will make jokes and you will try the tool out. And you have to account for that at least the first time you're going to use the tool, that it's new to them and they're going to be kind of playing around and laughing and smiling and getting excited about using something. But you want to tell them, though, what the consequences are and exactly how far their jokes can go, whatever it may be, and then carry through with a misuse of the guidelines. Like, will it be, if you do this, the whole class can't use it, or are you going to be excluded from using it? That kind of thing. So make sure to set some guidelines and let them know exactly how you're going to use it in the class before you start. Do not just automatically say, hey, we're using this tool, and send them all in. Talk about it beforehand, talk about what they need to do. And I know you know this, but it's just a good reminder to think of doing those things before you start something like this. And if you are going to think about grading it, we have a couple rubrics in the Millie Wiki, even one just as simple as this that you could use for chat. So I have this simple rubric, and then I link to an article that had some more rubrics and information on how to do chat rubrics in the classroom. So you don't have to do this at all, but if you decided that you wanted to use something like this and that it would be graded, you can even find rubrics online that can help you figure out, how do I grade a chat? And I talked about this before a little bit too, is, why do you want to use microblogging in chat? And it really is, can it help students see something else from someone else's perspective? And also, though, can it help students realize how online tools can be utilized for education? I hear this from a lot of students, and teachers tell me this, that students think this way too, that the iPad and computers are fun for them. They don't sometimes think of, and especially tools like this, like Twitter, tools like that are fun for them. They don't think of using them for education sometimes. So if we try to introduce some of these new technologies to them in an educational setting, will it help them realize how they can use technology like that in education? So when we do meet, like I said, we're going to do our copyright night, so we will talk about copyright as well. And then after we do that, we'll talk about these tools. In Millie, we'll probably just focus on today's meet. Millie Junior probably just simple meet. But you've seen both of them now, so you can use others if you'd like as well. But that's what we'll do when we meet, is that we're not going to look at those note-taking tools, so please explore some on your own to see if you'd like those. But you will learn about these two tools. And then, yeah, I don't want to forget to tell you to blog. Blogging is how we know what you're working on. There's no other way for us to know kind of what you're doing in the program. So if I don't see blogs from you, I do kind of assume that you aren't using these tools. So we need to see from blogs, just so we know what you're thinking about these tools and how you're using them. So that's my last bit. This is the end of the video for this month. So go check out some note-taking applications, and I will see you soon.